Welcome to Beautifully Rebellious, a podcast about going against the grain, creating your own rules, and living your most authentic life. I'm your host, Erin Burr, and I am so excited to welcome you to my show. Let's dive right in. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the podcast. I'm so glad that you're here. As always, every week I'm pretty much glad you're here because that shows that you're supporting me, which I'm very, very much thankful for. As far as a quick life update, I guess I don't really have much compared to last week. I've just been doing the same things, working on getting the stuff for my Queendom affirmation deck all set up. I don't remember if I mentioned this in the last episode, but I put the post up that the deck was live. Like in my shop, you could go ahead and pre-order it, and then I realized that I had some typos in the deck. So no big deal because those have been rectified, and before I do the official order for you guys, all that will be fixed, so it doesn't matter. But on that note, you can go to my shop. Link is in the show notes, but it's erinburr.com. On my shop, go ahead and pre-order that deck. I'm kind of playing around with the idea that I might only order the ones that are pre-ordered. So if you're like, oh, I'll just wait until she orders them and they're actually here in stock, well, bad news for you, I'm not going to order one for you if you don't pre-order. I do really still believe that the deck is an amazing deck, and even if you do pre-order, it's totally worth it. And it's not even an unheard of concept. I've done it with my friends where they have stores that they're launching, and they have merch. I pre-order it, and then I wait until the day that they're able to go in and produce it, and then ship it to me. No big deal. That's how pre-orders work. So, anyways, moving on. Also, I just want to remind you guys, you can jump onto my Amazon site. Link is also in the show notes, and pick up any of my journals that I have created. I really, really do like them. I mean, I guess I really like everything I create, which is also a really good sign, because if I didn't like the stuff I was making, then I'd probably question why I was making it. But the journals and notebooks are there, and I think they're really cool. And I am actually really excited because I journal all the time, as we know, and the journal that I currently have is nearing the end, and I've already purchased one of my personal journals. It's like a pink one. I'm trying to pull it out right now, and it says Love Thoughts to Myself. I specifically picked that one because it's my journal, so it's like the place where I kind of like unload my thoughts and write notes to myself and things like that. So I just thought, that's the one I want to use for my next journal. So I'm really excited because it's almost time to use it, and you guys should go pick one up too, and then you'll have your journal as well. And on a similar note, that kind of segues into today's topic. I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about today, and honestly, sometimes I'm just really not sure, and it's because I second guess myself a lot, and I second guess if it's a topic that you guys even want to hear about. But this is my podcast, and it is about living life authentically, and I try to keep it pretty real. I don't put all my business out there just because my business isn't necessarily just my business. It's other people's business as well, so I like to, allow them that privacy, and unless, they've given me permission. And also, I think the reality of it is as much as we like to share our things, we as people, I think, tend to also like to keep our business to ourselves and not be so vulnerable. And that's something I'm working on, is just being more vulnerable with my stuff. And I feel like I have been more open about things in this podcast, but there's still, there's plenty in my life that I don't share with like the podcast or my social medias or even actual human beings in my life. So yeah, all that I guess was just to say I chose this topic and I want to talk about it because I think it is useful. And like I was trying to say, it's my podcast, so I guess I can talk about it if I want to talk about it. Let me get a drink of my tea. I'm weirdly drinking iced tea even though I'm freezing cold, and I've got the heater blasting right next to me. I think it's just because that's what I made. But I'm like craving a good cup of coffee, which I might make after I finish this tea. But let's move forward. Moving forward, I want to talk about how I personally deal with like tough situations or hard moments, difficult times in life. And this can be like actual like difficult moments or difficult in our minds, if you catch my drift. Like, like we're feeling like some type of way in our heads and it's making us feel like we're in a hard moment. Obviously, I'm not going to touch on everything that one can do in these moments, and depending on the situation, there's so many different ways that you can go, and there's different things that you kind of have to do. Like sometimes you have to, I don't know, there's just certain things that you have to do. There's no option not to do them. You just have to do them. But I'm going to talk about just my things that I do, and they tend to lean more towards how I mentally push through them. And I just figured I'm just going to dive into it and talk about it. And I guess I'm going to put a little disclaimer out there because I know that everyone's hard times look different, and I know that my hard times don't look the same as your hard times, and your hard times don't look like somebody else's, and we all have different levels of what's hard for us, and we all go through different hardships in our life. But first of all, I don't think that lowers the impact of what's hard on somebody just because it doesn't look the same as yours or mine. And also, I think that in the same way that you would hope that somebody could have empathy, if that's the right word, empathy for you and your moments, that you would also reciprocate that for them. Understanding that, yeah, you might feel like what you're going through is harder, and that's cool, and it might actually legit be harder. And sometimes we do get in our, poor me, mentalities, and it's kind of like you just need to be snapped out of it. But I think through all that, we can always acknowledge the pain and the hardship that someone's going through, even if you're like, dude, I've been through worse, or I am going through worse. You've got it real good. Only because we never really truly know the mentality of the person, and we also don't really know their full backstory. And so I just think it's kind to walk with grace towards people like that. I think it's okay if you have a relationship that allows that to kind of, give them a healthy dose of reality also. But at the same time, just don't completely discredit, I guess, their hardship and say that it's nothing, because you don't really know. But moving forward, these are just some things that I do to push myself through a hard time. And like I said, I feel like it's mostly mentally. Some of it is physical, but it's really dealing with the mental. And I think because when we're in hard situations, it really is a mental battle, because it's our mind that's telling us that we can't do this, or that, we're not good enough to do that, or there's just no way possible that this thing's going to work out. And I think when we tackle our mindset, we're able to accomplish so much more, and we're able to find ways to make things work out, even when we thought before they weren't going to work out. And I do know that there's outside circumstances that we can't control in every situation, and sometimes things legit just can't work out, and it's beyond our control. But if your mindset is something that you're working on, I think your resilience is better than compared to if you kind of just sulked in the moment. So the first thing that I like to do, this should be no surprise to anybody, is I like to journal. Hence why I create journals. I think they're very important. I like to journal, one, because I think it's important to just get the raw feelings out, just put it out on paper, get it out. And I think once you start to do that, the situation instantly starts to feel a lot less than it is, because you just needed to get the emotions out somewhere and the thoughts. And so what I like to do is I just like to journal, like, I think we call it like freehand journaling or something. It doesn't really matter. Just free write. Just journal, um, without holding anything back. And then afterwards, I'll go back and kind of read over it or just rethink about what I had just journaled. And then I'll ask myself, from like an outside perspective, is what I'm perceiving to be true actually true? Is it really happening that way, or is it my perception? If it involves another person or another party, then I will say, well, is that really their intentions, or am I assuming that was their intention behind whatever is going on? And then I'll also ask myself, like, am I applying logic in this situation, or am I letting my emotions and my past traumas rule how I'm reacting right now? And so journaling just really helps me a lot because, like I said, I like to journal. I love writing. And I think it's just really, it's an easy way to pour it all out somewhere, but not at the person or people that you're dealing with. And sometimes it's, you're not dealing with a specific person. Maybe it's a situation in your life and you can't really yell at the situation. So it just gives you a place to speak your thoughts and your feelings and to just let it out. In a similar way, I think if you have a person in your life that's like a safe place for you to go to, and it's a supportive person, someone who will listen to you, but they also won't let you kind of get stuck in that rut, then that's also a really great place to go to, because it's like journaling. You know, if you can just pour out your feelings and then they just hear you, just let you get it out. It's like, because a lot of people, you know, like to verbally process. So it's just that way of you having a space to do that. And they're kind of like your soundboard. And in a way, and if you guys have a good process too, it's kind of like, instead of you asking yourself, well, is this true? Maybe if they're, like I said, a safe and supportive person, they can also be that soundboard for you and be like, all right, well, do you think that that's actually their intentions? You know, and then kind of like walk you through that similar process that you would do in journaling, and just help you get the perspective outside of your own head. And also I find too that once you say something, like once you just let the words exit your mouth and your mind, they tend to have less meaning to you and less impact. And it's kind of like you said it and you're like, ah, yeah, I'm over it now. It's like, it's dead to me. And it's just like, you just needed to get it out, because the longer you let it sit and ruminate in your mind, it's like you're giving fuel to the fire. And it's like, once you speak it, it's just like taking away all fuel and like all oxygen and everything. And that fire just instantly dies. Or it's like a tiny little, like a little flame, like on a match. And you're like, that's nothing. Blow it out. Another thing that I really like to do in these moments to help me push through difficult times mentally is meditate. And specifically, not in the meditate, like sometimes people think meditate, I'm going to meditate on this specific topic. And no, not like that. Meditate in the way that I mean that you are removing yourself from this physical realm. Basically, you are taking yourself out of this world here and entering into a different one, essentially. You're removing yourself from your body and like your egoic mind, and just sitting in like your spiritual self. And I find this is really, really, really beneficial in those moments, for me at least, because it's a way, it's like escaping your thoughts. And I don't promote escapism a lot, but there is a time and place. And I think it's really good to step out of this physical realm sometimes and just put yourself in a different, higher place, because you're able to reconnect with your soul. And I think that time that you spend in that plane and just getting back to who you truly are at your core, when you come out of your meditation time, you're kind of like recalibrated in a way. It's like you went in, you grounded yourself, you recalibrated yourself back to who you actually are. And now when you re-enter this world, you're able to approach the situation at hand in a better place. You're more grounded, you're more at peace, and you're able to say, okay, I can do this because blah, blah, blah. Like you're just a better person, basically. And so I find that meditation is just really, really, really good for that. Even like, honestly, even if like you're having a tough moment at work and like someone pisses you off, I think just stepping away, grabbing like 3 minutes where you can just close your eyes and just do that by yourself somewhere and block out the rest of the world. And it's literally regrounding or recalibrating yourself to your true self. And once you come back, it's like you can kind of just feel it. You're like, nah, I'm above that. I'm above that situation. I'm above the, if you're having some like difficult time with a coworker and they're just like, being petty, you're like, nah, I'm above that. So meditation, very useful. None of these things, honestly, I'm saying should be very surprising at all. But the next one, affirmations. Again, I create affirmation decks for you guys. I create my own affirmations. I've been doing it for years now. And I even have like my own little personal affirmations that I recite over to myself for different seasons of my life, for when I'm working on different, specific parts of myself. And so affirmations are really, really great because they also just bring you back to who you are. They remind you of who you are. They remind you of the power that you have. They remind you of who you are as a creator. And really whatever you've written your affirmation around, they're going to remind you of that. And so I think it's just so easy in our world. We're constantly being bombarded with information and just feedback basically on who we should be, how we should act, how we should react to things, how we should like even put up with different situations. And I think sometimes that information is helpful, but I think oftentimes that information is not helpful because it is telling us how we should respond to things based on how other people have responded to things. And that's not necessarily the correct action for you, because that's how they responded for who they are and in response to the people or person or situations that they're dealing with. And it's a unique situation for each person. It could be similar, but it's always unique because every human being is unique. And so it's just going to be different. So I think it's always great to just use affirmations to remind yourself of who you are at your core, because I think when we remember ourselves, it's a lot easier to face a situation and face it confidently. And then my last thing I have, my second to last thing, or maybe my third to last, I don't know. The next thing I have is gratitude. Also, side note, I create gratitude journals for you guys also on my Amazon channel, or Amazon site. Gratitude is so important because the moment you start practicing gratitude, you automatically start lifting your mood and your vibration. And if you can lift your mood, you're already going to start seeing things in a different light. And so what I like to do when I'm struggling and I'm like, I just need to jump out of this mindset right now, but I don't really want to, but I need to, I'll just tell myself, list 3 things you're grateful for right now. And I'll do it while I'm driving. I'll do it when I wake up, when I'm about to go to sleep, just random moments. 3 things you're grateful for right now. And sometimes it can be hard because I'll find myself in the midst of reciting something I'm grateful for, going back down the path of whatever it is I'm, annoyed about at the moment, or, whatever the hard thing is, I'll go back down my thought trail about that. And then I'll have to bring it back around. but I don't quit until I get 3 at least. And so practicing gratitude is highly important. If you have more time and you're like, I just can't get out of this funk, I can't push through this mental part of this thing, keep going. Keep listing things that you're grateful for. And it doesn't have to be big, elaborate things, guys. It can be as simple as I'm grateful for my cup of coffee today. I'm grateful for a smooth drive into work. It can be literally anything, just whatever you're truly grateful for. And the next thing, this is where I was saying sometimes action does help. And this is action, but in a different way. The next thing I like to do when I feel like I'm up against something is I like to make a game plan. And I have so many times, like I have this thing about control. I like to control things. And in a way, making a game plan does look a lot like controlling a situation. But I don't think it's bad to have a form of control over things as long as you're understanding and willing to release it at the same time, like if you need to. And hopefully, as I say this, all of that will come together and make more sense. But I think having a game plan means you're taking action on something. And at least that's what I mean by having a game plan. And so what I like to do is, although I can't control everything in a situation, I can't control the other people involved, I can't control the outcome of just how things will be, what I can control is what actions I will take in that situation. So, for example, let's pick up something. I've said many times I'm in this process of like a season of transitioning. I'm working on saving money to be able to afford my own place. And something I could do is be like, oh my gosh, I only make X amount of dollars. I mean, I have actually done this. I've said this, so I only make X amount of dollars and I can only afford places that are this amount of money. Like, how am I supposed to afford to live anywhere by myself? Blah, blah, blah. And I could keep going down that rabbit trail, essentially, and bringing myself lower and lower and honestly attracting that lifestyle anyways to myself, because if I'm saying I can only afford that, then that's where I'm going to sit. But what I decided to do was, instead of just sitting there and wallowing in it, I decided to make a game plan. And so step 1 was to figure out my finances, figure out how much money I need to pay for certain bills and help take care of the kids and be able to afford to eat and rent and things like that, and just figured out, okay, what am I even looking at as far as expenses? And then I started looking at places. Not that I'm going to move into them right now, but because it gives me a vision, like a actual vision for what I do like, what I don't like, what I'm willing to tolerate, basically, and get an idea of what that means for me as far as financial needs. And I also have taken action as far as how to make more room in my budget or in my finances right now. Like, what can I do right now? So right now I'm working on paying off some debt, because if I pay that off now, while I'm in the situation that I'm in right now, where I'm able to still, live with Gabe and the kids and not have to pay rent, and I do have a lot of my needs that are taken care of. If I have this situation right now that I'm blessed to have, then I can use this time to prepare myself for the next situation. And so that's my game plan. It's, where can I take action? I can't walk up to my boss and be like, I need a raise right now. Like, yeah, I've been here for 30 days. You're not going to give me a raise. I mean, if I really wanted to, I could be like, I'm going to find a different job. But I feel like the most practical things are, start getting your finances in order. Start figuring out life. And I've also been doing other small things, just knowing that I'm preparing for that, like cleaning out my closet, cleaning out things, getting myself in a place to where when the opportunity arises and I'm ready to make that jump, I'm actually ready. I'm not like, oh no, like I still have like so many clothes to get rid of, and I still have these, junk drawers that I need to rummage through. It's like, no, like I've already made the moves and prepared myself to the point that all that's left to do is to have things align, have, the finances in my account, have the perfect apartment, or, the one that's perfect for me become available, have, just have things align. But in the meantime, I'm following my game plan. And I feel like having a game plan really just helps alleviate some of that mental stress of a hard time, because it's really easy just to look at the big picture of the obstacle before you and be like, how am I supposed to climb that mountain? And the truth is, you're going to climb it one step at a time. So start making those steps, start planning them out, and start taking them. I don't feel like that's the same thing as control, only because control would be more like, it has to be this way. I have to have everything like this in this very particular way. And if it doesn't go that way, I'm going to flip out. No, I'm very open to how things are going to go down. I just know that in the meantime, I can take action towards the big picture goal. And then 2 more things, guys. Another thing I like to do, and this does promote the escapism route, is sometimes you really do just need to escape for a moment and get your mind off of whatever it is before you, even if it is huge, even if it is like staring you constantly in your face. We all just need a moment to break free from that stuff. And so I like to go find something that I enjoy doing. And for me, that could be painting, that could be, playing a video game, reading a book, watching a movie. It could be a lot of different things, because I do a lot of different things, but you know what you like to do. And I think taking like a couple hours to yourself to just take a break and mentally check out of all the stuff going on around you, and just have a breather. I think that's important. So that's one of the things on the list, but it's so important to remember that you can't do that forever, and you can't do that every day. You have to come back and you have to address the things before you. You have to address the feelings that you have, because you can keep trying to outrun a situation or a hard moment or a mentally difficult situation, but it's going to keep showing back up. It's never truly gone until you face it head on. So take your moment, take a breather, and then put on your big girl pants and boots and whatever else and face it. And then the last thing, but so important, is if you need to, seek outside help. I think everyone benefits from outside help in some form. This could be, a licensed therapist. It could be a life coach. It could be a spiritual coach. It could be many different things. But I think it's very important that we all have some sort of outlet and resource for ourselves to be able to express ourselves in a safe place, and to even get like feedback from a third party, essentially. Because we're not meant to do life alone. None of us, no human being is meant to do life alone. And even if your egoic mind has a story that says, I'm always going to be alone, I'm always going to have to do everything by myself, or even I'm just better off doing things by myself, I can't trust anybody, I can only trust myself, I can only rely on myself to get things done the right way, any of that stuff, that's not true. That is 100% your ego talking, and it's out of a place of trying to preserve yourself and keep yourself safe. But that's not true, and every human being actually needs another human being. We need the interaction of each other. We need that relationship with each other. We need each other. So make sure that if you're not getting that kind of support that you need from people around you, that you find it, and that you find a resource. Like, I know there's BetterHelp.com. There's online therapy sources. There's lots of resources out there. There's, if you're not one who's into traditional therapy, there's so many different types of therapy. First of all, like when I was a kid, I went to therapy and I was like, this sucks. But now I see that there's so many different types of therapy out there. And so it's like, go out and explore the different ones and find what works for you. It could be something weird, like compared to what, traditionalists would say. But that, quote, weird thing could be the thing for you that really just helps you get the help that you need. So it's not wrong to ask for help. It's not a bad thing to ask for help. It's actually good, and it's actually you giving yourself a chance to be vulnerable by asking for help. And it's you being very human and asking for help. But yeah. So those are the things that I do, guys. I hope you could take any of them and apply at least one in your life, or at least it gets you thinking, how do you cope with those things? And maybe not cope. I don't like cope. What tools do you have to help you push through those hard times, specifically in a mental level? And make sure that if you don't have any, that you start some. And maybe it's a couple off of my list of things that I do. Maybe you can find things that are very specific to you, but I just highly encourage you to make sure that you have something, because there's nothing worse than just sitting there staring at your problem while it stares back at you, and you're like, I can't say what I want to say, I guess, on air. I guess I could, but I don't want to say it. But, you're basically like, I'm screwed. I can't do anything. My life's falling apart. Because that's not true. It just feels like it in the moment, and it might look like it in the moment, but there is always a way out. Always. I don't care what anyone has to say. I don't care if anyone's like, well, you have a more privileged life, you have a better situation, so you don't understand. You know what? I may not understand your specifics, but I do believe that there is always a way out. So if you want to say that there isn't, maybe we just shouldn't be having a conversation, because we clearly are never going to see eye to eye then. But that's that, guys. I hope I see you or you hear me next week. And until then, guys, have a great week. I'll talk to you later. Bye. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast today, guys. If you could go ahead and leave a review on whatever platform you listen to this podcast on, that would be so appreciated. And then go ahead and share the episode that you listened to today, or the whole podcast, to someone that you think would find the content that I share here valuable for their life. And the more we share it, the more people we can reach. So let's do this together, guys.